Hi folks, this is Travis with Set Apart Homestead, and today I want to talk about plants and how to make medicine out of them. I suspect this is going to be several videos because today is just kind of an introductory. From time to time I'll try to make some if there's some interest and share a little bit of the knowledge that I know. It's not great knowledge, but I do know a few things about it. I had made a video early on in this channel about how I feel that if you're a homesteader, that if you're someone that's trying to be self-sufficient, and especially if you're someone that considers yourself a prepper, preparedness-minded, whatever, you need to know about plant medicine, how to, harvest stuff in the wild, how to grow things, and especially how to use them to treat illnesses and medical problems that come along the way. I feel it's vital to that. I feel that you're missing a great part. You may have a trauma kit, but what if your child gets some infection? What if they get strep throat and they're running a high fever and you can't run down to the local Walgreens or take them to a doctor? You have to treat them yourself. You need to know what things that you can harvest in the wild or in your garden to know how to treat them. Becoming an herbalist, at least a family herbalist, is not difficult at all. It's something that you can do on your own. There are no national licensing, from the government. The government does not license herbalists. There are no, universally accepted, licensing from an organization or association of like Master Herbalist or anything like that. The term is very much an unofficial term, but a family herbalist is something that you can easily become. Virtually every family had one in the past, and it's a lost art. It has become popular again, so there is more information about it, much more accepted nowadays. So it's a great time to learn about it. For those of you that may not know about plant-based medicine or understand how it can actually, treat things. Up until 1930, 1932, nearly all medicines that were prescribed by a doctor or that were used in the family to treat something were plant-based. There were some pharmaceutical, man-made chemical pharmaceutical medicines by 1932, but not a lot. They were still predominantly using plant-based medicines. It wasn't until the early 30s that the pharmaceutical industry realized how much money they could really make by manufacturing their own that they patented and pushing that, and that's when they started really pushing doctors to walk away from natural medicines. So while I realize that there's still a place for man-made medicines for certain things, there is so much out there that's really good about natural plant-based herbal medicines that a lot of people just don't realize. And if you want to prepare for whatever happens in the future, you need to prepare this way too, and you need to learn about it now so that you've already got the knowledge under your belt and you're already using them. Because if you wait till after it all happens to start pulling those books out, it's not going to be good for you. So, I wanted to just, like I said in this video, just something to get you started. I am no expert, so don't just believe everything that I say. Research it, check it, make sure that it is correct for you and that it'll work for you. I learned under a couple of herbalists. That's what got me started. I have read numerous books on herbs and plants. I've done a lot of trial and error. I have taken some classes, some courses in herbalism, but in no way do I consider myself an expert. I just think that it's something that many preparedness-minded people miss. They just don't think about it. They may have their first aid kit, but what do they do about medicine? Because it's not like you can go down to your doctor and have him write you a whole bunch of prescriptions for all the medicine that you want to store. And then it doesn't really last that long anyways. So you need to know how to go out into the wild and harvest plants that are helpful, and then also how to grow your own. So that's something you need to start doing now. Today I wanted to cover books. Well, I'll cover a few other things too. But books are something that you can find all over the place. There are so many books now printed on herbal medicine. There are a few good authors that I really admire and recognize as being extremely knowledgeable in the field. So look to those people. I'm a little weary of all the people online that claim to know about plants. I see articles, I see memes and things like that many times that I know are not actually correct. This plant, it can cure this. This plant can cure this. Well, I don't know about curing it. I don't know if that's, from what I know, it's not absolutely correct. So be wary of all the stuff online. I'm not saying that there's not good information online, but like with many things, you need to check it out for yourself and don't just believe what you just see online. The first thing that I think someone needs to do is they need to learn how to identify the plants first. Sure, you can just run down to the local, natural food store and buy some bulk dried herbs, and then know how to turn those into teas and tinctures and things like that. But what if that store doesn't exist anymore? You need to know how to go out and harvest them, and that's really the most important part, because you can get very sick or even kill someone by harvesting the wrong plant. There are some lookalikes that are very deadly, and there's some lookalikes that can make you very ill. So it's very important to get your skills of harvesting down. So one thing that you can do is look in your area, check with your local library or different clubs, and they may do plant walks in the spring, where an herbalist will take you through the woods or the park and kind of point out different plants. That's a good place to get started. There may be some clubs in your area that would be willing to teach you. A book that I like, and there's others, but this one is one that I like, is Peterson Field Guide. They make a lot of different field guides, and this one is the field guide to medicinal plants and herbs for Eastern and Central North America. I like this one. I know that there's some herbalists that say they prefer a different kind, but this is just one that I like. It doesn't cover every plant, but it does cover a lot. Lots of good full color photographs. I like the information that's put into these for each plant. I feel very good information. So this is a good identification guide. Something like this is necessary. I know some herbalists that's been around for years that I would consider them a master of the art, and they still use books like this to identify when they're harvesting. So this is a must, and start getting to know the plants in your area. You don't have to know every plant in your area. That's the thing. I know a lot of people, they're like, oh, well, there's just so many plants, and how do I get to, to know all these plants? I mean, there's just thousands of them. I only know like 4 or 5 plants. That's actually really good. Even professional herbalists that may have businesses or treat people, typically only use between 10 and 20 herbs on a regular basis. They may have others that they use, but those are those 10 or 20 are the ones that they use all the time. So you don't have to know lots and lots of plants. Start off with 2 or 3 plants and learn them well, and then just keep adding to that. And this is a good book to use. As far as authors, in these books I pulled out, these are just examples. I've got so many books I wasn't sure what to pick, so I just kind of went with some examples. These next 2 are mostly about the author. These are 2 authors that I feel are very, very well. They're well known, but I admire and respect their knowledge. This one here, Stephen Herbuner, he is an extremely well known herbalist. This book is more of kind of a how-to. It lists the plants or the illnesses and what plants to use, but a lot of his books just talk about the pharmaceutical industry and how herbal medicine has been subdued and pushed away, and really I guess some of you might say the conspiracies around how governments and lobbyists and stuff have tried to really push plant-based medicine to the back burner. The guy has been an herbalist for decades, and I think he's a genius. And I love anything that he puts out. Another herbalist that I like a lot is Rosemary Gladstar. This is a book of hers. She has a lot of information online, and she produces several books. And anything that she produces would be a good book. So I highly recommend her. Now, these next two books are actually old books. I'm not even familiar exactly with this herbalist or anything, but I like the book. It's just called Herbal Medicine. I picked it up, I think, at a used bookstore once. But it's an example that, you can find old books also on herbs. And this one's a really good one. I use it actually quite a bit. And then one of the first actual books printed on herbal medicine is called The Herbalist. This book was originally printed back in the late 1800s, but it's been reprinted numerous times. This is one of the reprints, I think, from like the 50s or 60s. It has a lot of good information. It's a small book, but it's just packed with information on the plants, how to make medicines with them, how to use them in food and spices and dyes and teas and all sorts of things. And it's a lot of really old wisdom. This guy traveled the country back in the 1800s and early 1900s, collecting this information. So this is an example of an older book that's really good. I think that the information still pertains. Yes, there may be new information out there on plant-based medicine, but the awesome thing is that, you can go back to the old information and it's still good too. So those are just some examples of books that you can get to get you started. Like I said, with plant-based medicine, it's something that you can learn. Don't get discouraged that maybe you don't know about it and how you're going to learn. If nothing else, just pick up some books and learn. Now there are there's online courses. There's certain schools that you can get in online and learn. They vary in cost greatly. There's also some brick and mortar schools that you can learn from, but you don't have to. If you can't afford that, get you some books and start reading about it. It's extremely vital, I think, to know what's growing in your area and to know how to use it. That's what it's there for, I believe. And I think it's silly to think that if an SHTF situation happens that, well, either it won't last long enough that we'll need medicine, or somehow we'll be able to barter for medicine or whatever. That's just not the case. You really need to know how to use what's out there. It's not difficult at all, trust me. And again, I'm not an expert, but it's really not difficult to learn. So that's just something that I hope to be able to encourage you. And I plan on doing some videos along the way on how to process herbs, dry them, how to make medicines. Once spring gets here and things start growing again, maybe I can make some videos on specific plants and what they do and how to identify them. But again, you really need to look into this, to kind of become familiar with plants. Virtually every family 100 years ago had someone in the family that was the family herbalist, and maybe you need to be that person. Maybe you already are, and if you are, that's great. And I'm happy that you have endeavored down that path and realize that there is a great resource that's just growing around you. But maybe you know nothing about it. You realize, I probably should do that, but how do I get into it? That's what I'm hoping these videos will do. This isn't going to be any kind of course for you or anything like that. It's just hopefully will inspire you and kind of point you in the right direction, or at least a direction of learning about plants and learning how to use them in your home. All right, I think that's about all I was going to say today. Feel free to ask questions or offer suggestions for upcoming videos on the plants. From time to time, like I said, I'll try to throw one out there at you on being an herbalist, the survival herbalist, or whatever you want to call it. All right, thank you guys and gals for watching, and I will catch you in the next video.